Previously on Bento of Fire. I don't want to support Santa. He's a bootlegger. Santa is not a good person to emulate.
From Santa, huh? Woo woo woo, I'm a helicopter. This thing is terrible! Toe of Fire. I have heard what you said about me, and I didn't like it. Next Christmas, though, I'm coming down that chimney and giving you a nice whooping. See you then. Alright, Santa. Alright. If it's a fight you want, it's a fight you're gonna get. Alright, Santa. Your move.
Ugh. Oh man, we really need to label the sugar and crack jars. This is starting to be a problem. What day is it? December 18th? Aw man, we slept too long! Alright, Pigeon, I'm gonna start the review series. I need you to check the power on the Hypercannon lightsaber. We cannot be caught with our pants down when Santa shows up. Back at it again. Let's talk about a figure that's, mixed bag. For the good stuff, the body sculpt is actually pretty nice. The musculature is actually pretty nicely prominent, and the paint-apps are perfectly okay. The little Thunderbolts logo is also pretty good, and is very neatly painted. The gauntlets are alright too, I guess. The head, though, it looks a little stretched out, I gotta be honest. Like, reduce the back of the head a bit and shift the ball joint forward and you'd be fine. I mean, other than that, I guess the eyes are pretty nicely painted, but, you know. No articulation segment since we've already got one around, but to be honest, this is one of the more logical choices for lesser articulation. I mean, how many non-blasting poses are you going to put this thing in? You get what you need, and with how much articulation went down in the final days of MU, that's enough to satisfy me. So, overall, what are my thoughts? Well, this isn't a figure that I would really seek out on its own, but its issues are minimal enough that I can't really complain. It's a vanilla figure. Not great, but not terrible. I'm Bento Fire, signing out. Actually, with less reviews this year, I should probably pull some double features. Alright, Living Laser. Boy, is this guy kinda mixed. You see, the detail in the paintwork is pretty cool. They have a contained white spray all over the upper torso, with white lightning bolts going down, along with a large purple stripe going across his chest, and 2 white circles on the shoulders. All of this over a translucent purple body. The only other majorly interesting feature is this oddly shaped head, which I actually did use for a Name Scientist Supreme custom. Also, I've already got an articulation segment ready for this type of articulation, so if you need to get that, check the description. So, overall, what are my thoughts? Well, I'd place this figure as lame, but overall not offensive. The details are pretty cool, as is the translucent purple body, but otherwise you could skip this and not really lose any sleep over it. Get it if you want to fill out your villain ranks, or you could just use the head for a custom. I'm Bento Fire, signing out. Hello, my friends. Here we have what is likely to be yet another bland figure, so let's get into it. To get into the head sculpt, it's... Wow, you know what? That's actually pretty good. The sculpting itself is good on its own, but it's highlighted by decent lip paint, a mostly precise mask, and really good eye paint. Seriously, I've seen 6-inch figures that don't have eyes this good. But, okay, the body must be terrible, right? Wait, no, it's actually great! The sculpting in the exposed collar area actually looks really natural, and the collar is painted mostly accurate to the sculpting, though I guess that bit of silver is a very large piercing since it doesn't connect to the collar at all. But otherwise I can't really complain about the torso besides the lack of articulation, of course. I mean, the rest of the limbs are just basic blacks with only small bits of sculpted fur, so is that flawed? Does that count? Okay, whatever, we've got standard lesser articulation, so another complaint, but check out how good the hips and ankles are. They got so much more range than we usually get, and it really helps with the posing. Just incredible. So, overall, what are my thoughts? Wow. This was a serious surprise. I originally bought this for the purpose of customization, but somehow, this has entered at least the top 20 in my MUs. How did they do that? There's just so much done right with this figure that all the wrong is very easily ignored. It's not even vanilla like Shocker was, it's just plain good, and I highly suggest it. I'm Bento Fire, sign out. Hello my friends! Today we've got a nice figure in, Moon Knight. Now this is actually a figure that I didn't initially want, since I don't really have any interest in Moon Knight as a character. Not that I don't like his design, as it's actually really good, this was just a hard to get MU at the time that honestly didn't seem worth it. It's a thing with comic book lines that I like to call the, why not effect. Like, you don't know anything about this character, but he's cheap, so why not fill out the ranks with him? Moon Knight wasn't cheap enough for me to consider him worth prioritizing at the time, so I left him for a few years until the 2016 Moon Knight came around and was terrible. After that, this guy became a bit of a grail for me, and thus I bought him, though without his accessories. So, let's take a look at him. Alright, first up, the head sculpt. It's pretty good. The hood is separate from the cape, but still looks like it's blending into it, though the effect also restricts head movement a bit. One weird thing is that his face fills out the entire hood, so he has some chubby cheeks. The body is a bit of a mixed bag. It's the same as Vision, with all that musculature, but I don't know, something about it makes him look a bit short and chubby, I guess. Maybe it's the belt. There's some pretty nice shading around the entire body though, so that's nice. His cape is kinda big and impedes some poses, but if you balance them right, it can also help with some of those poses. It was also reused on the Grim Reaper as mentioned last year. Oh yeah, and I should mention that it came with a stick, but the seller didn't include that on mine, so I just kinda used these sticks from Mockingbird, since she's kinda busy being Firestar right now. Anyway, for articulation, he has a ball-jointed head, hinged shoulders, bicep swivels, single-jointed elbows, wrist rotations, a diaphragm joint that is easy to use, ball-jointed hips, double-jointed knees, and hinged ankles that rotate but have no pivot. And before anyone gets on me for changing the way we do articulation around here after 2 episodes, or that we've used at least 3 different cameras throughout these 3 episodes, shut up! So, overall, what are my thoughts? Well, this figure is perfectly fine, but it does stink a bit of early MU. If you want a Moon Knight without customizing for one, then definitely go for this one. But if you're willing to customize for a better one, best to save your money for the fodder. I'm Bento Fire, signing out. Hello my friends! Here's something a bit special. Possibly the best MU Spider-Man we've ever gotten. Okay, well people debate that a bit to this day, and I will address some of those points, since they aren't really without merit. But may I just note that we had been clamoring for this guy for years, before Hasbro finally woke up and was like, hey, people want us to use this body, instead of that original one that nobody likes, but got at least 4 Spidey figures made from it anyway. Okay, that's a talk for another day, but yeah. Did this guy live up to the hype? Let's find out. Okay, so the head sculpt is perfect to me. It just encapsulates a very 90s Spider-Man for me, which is a style I prefer since I grew up watching reruns of the 90s cartoon. The neck does raise some concerns for me though. The joint is perfectly fine and can accommodate those wall crawling poses, but the bottom of it is wobbling, which is not something this body should do. It also happened with my Sinister Six Mysterio, so I guess 2017 was just a bad year for this mold. His body is good though. It's a typical Captain America / Daredevil body, but it has a wonderful web pattern printed all over it, which some people do take umbrage with since they prefer sculpted webbing. Which is fair, but I disagree with them because it looks nice and comic booky. Some people also take issue with the body being a bit too muscular for their taste, since they prefer a skinny Spider-Man. But as mentioned earlier, I grew up with a 90s Spidey, so I'm pleading my nostalgias on that one. I do quite like the front Spider logo, but the back one is a mess. It seems to be the same print as my first MU Spidey, but it's got bits of paint missing. Oh well. I also have a problem with his right hand, since it prevents a lot of poses I could otherwise do without a hitch. This problem can be fixed by buying one of the older Spideys and switching the hands though. Also, I kinda broke this one, so do be careful, kids. Anyway, we've already covered the head, so we'll just mention that he has hinged shoulders, bicep swivels, single jointed elbows, wrist rotations, a diaphragm joint, waist rotation, ball jointed hips, thigh rotations, double jointed knees, boot rotations, and ankles that hinge and pivot. So, overall, what are my thoughts? This figure is awesome. I was one of the many who had been demanding it for years, and they finally delivered on it. Is it perfect? No. I've mentioned almost every issue there is. By the way, there's also some paint rub on certain areas of the blue, and some may not like it on principle, but if you like how it looks, go ahead and pick one up. Or you could grab that new 2-pack and get him in the PS4 costume. Or you could just get both. I'm Bento Fire, signing out. Hello my friends, and welcome to another double feature, this time on the Enchantress and Executioner 2-pack. Now, Executioner was actually a very in-demand release from Hasbro, since we had seen this revealed for a 3-pack that never materialized. Then, in 2017, they finally released it. And it completely tanked. Why? Well, let's find out. Starting with Scourge, we see some new bits, but a few bits reused as well. Obviously, his head sculpt is brand new, and conveys all that you really need to know about him, so not much to really say there. But his armor is questionable. Not that it's badly sculpted or anything, just that it's kind of a weird rubber that's very easy to tear. And unlike most over-the-torso pieces, there's no way of removing it without ripping it. Under that armor is actually a brand new torso piece with a diaphragm joint, but it's so stiff that you may as well not even bother with it. The rest of him is a mix of reused Ares parts and new bits that all blend together well. His axe is also reused from Ares, but I expected nothing less since it's perfect for him. For all but his torso articulation, we have a hinged neck, hinged shoulders, bicep swivels, single jointed elbows, hinged wrists that also rotate, ball jointed hips, upper thigh rotation, double jointed knees, boot rotations, and ankles that go up, down, and pivot. So overall, pretty solid figure, right? How could a 2-pack with this character fail? Especially after his appearance in Thor Ragnarok? Well, one simple thing. The other figure. Ah yes, Amora the Enchantress. One of my favorite villains in the Earth's Mightiest Heroes cartoon, and the one that I desperately wanted to see in a 2-pack with Scourge. So, how did they do this typically beautiful villainess? Well, let's just say that I'm expecting her to ask for my manager at any minute, cause this face is not good. Her eyes are also a 1 in a million chance at derp. I got pretty lucky with mine, but they're starting to drift a little bit, as you can see. I guess her torso's alright if you like painted on tops aren't even. Her arms are a bit weird, though. Why is there a cuff near her elbow? Oh wait, I know why. Because these are Captain Marvel's arms! Boy, I sure am glad Hasbro is being efficient with their reuses. Gloved hands are perfect for barehanded characters. I also take some umbrage with her legs. Like, if you raise the hips at all, her skirt is hiked up to a ridiculous degree. And her knees are... oh, wow. Okay guys, I have no idea why, but for some reason, her lower legs can bend in both directions. This is for real, kids. Like, look at this, she can touch her toes and everything. How did this figure get through production with knees like this? You'd think someone down the line would mention that. Whatever. For articulation, she has a ball-jointed head, hinged shoulders, lower arm swivels, and hinges, ball-jointed hips, double-jointed knees, ankles that hinge and pivot. Okay, so overall, what are my thoughts? Well, Executioner is well worth it, but Enchantress... yeah, I think she kinda dragged the pack down. Like, even at the best level of quality control, she's just not a good figure for various reasons, and her only saving grace for me is that she's an Enchantress for my collection. That's it, really. But hey, since I kinda predicted this pack, why doesn't Hasbro do my other idea and make a Venom and Black Suit Spider-Man 2-pack? I mean, if you use the lower arms from Ares, all the new you'd need to make a Venom from Executioner is the lower legs and head, and Spidey's just a repaint away from that 2-pack version. Probably too practical for Hasbro to do, though. I'm Bento Fire, sign out. Hello, my friends! After the sour taste of Enchantress, I think we could use an example of a good magic user figure. Thus, I present to you Doctor Strange. Now, the face sculpt is actually pretty good, giving him a raised eyebrow expression. However, the paint lets it down slightly, since one side has thicker paint than the other on both the mustache and the eyes. His torso is a very much used variation of the Captain America/Daredevil mold, where it's meant to look more like a robe than a tight outfit. The symbol on his chest is pretty nicely painted, and the two new pieces that are his belt and skirt thing look pretty good too. Also, I think Hasbro intended these hands to eventually be reused for a Spider-Man figure, but that never came to pass. I should also note that this was from a comic pack, so he has some extra shading around his torso and arms. However, I think something may have faded over the years, because his torso is looking very bright compared to his arms and legs. Oh yeah, and dare we forget the Cloak of Levitation? It's nicely sculpted, with a lot of yellow line work alongside the outside edges, and the Eye of Agamotto around his neck is looking pretty good too. The detail is hampered a bit by the inside not having much work done on it, but hey, at least it's made of a good rubber. For articulation, he has a hinged neck, hinged shoulders, bicep swivels, single-jointed elbows, wrists that rotate and hinge, a diaphragm joint, waist rotation, ball-jointed hips, upper thigh rotation, double-jointed knees, boot rotations, and ankles that go up, down, and pivot. So, overall, what are my thoughts? Well, I honestly love it. Among MUs, he's pretty distinct in a crowd, and it's just an example of how good MU used to be. Get him if you want the Sorcerer Supreme in your collection. I'm Bento Fire, signing out. Alright, Pigeon. You ready to make a stand against Santa and his bootleggery? Mm-hmm. Alright, let's go. Hello, my friends, and welcome to the last episode of the season. Yeah, I know, only 7 episodes for a series with 12 in the name, but honestly, I think that helped me focus a bit more on the episodes that I did produce, versus just going for quantity over quality. And the episodes are overall better for it, to be honest. Anyway, on to Electro. One note on this variation is that it came in the Amazon exclusive Sinister 6 box set, which was a set of repaints that I briefly discussed back in my Rainbow Deadpool set video, which, at the time of this recording, is one of my highest viewed videos. Like, guys, you realize that I've got a 5 POA Star Wars video, a Bionicle video game review, and 3 different Superman videos that could use some serious love right now, right? Anyway, the differences between this one and the original are small enough that I think this one will do, so let's get into it. Starting with the head sculpt, I actually really like it. He's got a wonderful little grin on his face, and the face mask is awesomely executed. His body is basically just a Silver Surfer body with new forearms and hands, but those hands add a lot to your posability with him. If he had been given, say, one fist hand and one open palm, it would have been considerably more limited. But these two open, slightly bent hands give you a lot more leeway, which is only helped by that facial expression. His torso kinda hurts the articulation, though, as his diaphragm joint, while not extremely stiff or limited, shows the hole for the peg quite prominently. Like, I know that we're technically making an aesthetic-based sacrifice with all that articulation, but a man's gotta have his limits. At the very least, the paint apps on his torso look very good, and really, the only overall problem I have with all of them is the green on the torso being more glossy than the limbs. But it's not overly glaring, so I can forgive it. For articulation, he has a ball-jointed head, hinged shoulders, bicep swivels, single-jointed elbows, wrist rotations, a diaphragm joint, ball-jointed hips, double-jointed knees, and ankles that hinge, but don't even rotate. So, overall, what are my thoughts? Well, despite some dated articulation points, I really love it. It's not Ultron or Ares levels of perfection, but you don't always need that to have a perfectly good figure. And to be perfectly honest, it's nice to have a review where Santa hasn't shown his ugly mug. Are you kidding me? Okay. Let's discuss Morbius. First off, his head sculpt is weird. Like, it just looks a bit bigger than it's supposed to be. Also, I can't tell if there's meant to be some kind of shading on it, or it's just poor white paint coverage on a black base. Also, his weird soul patch thing looks more like a weird black zit than facial hair. I do dig the snazzy collar though, and really, who doesn't want a 6-pack and badly painted belt combo? Not too bad on the hip articulation either. However, his posability is hindered by the cape. No, not in a way of blocking it, though it does inhibit movement backwards, but rather because you want to use them as wings. So to line it up properly, you have to keep his arms in a very specific pose. I guess he's trying to be like someone in the PS4 Spider-Man game. Anyway, for articulation, he's got a ball-jointed head, hinged shoulders, elbows that hinge and rotate, ball-jointed hips, double-jointed knees, and ankles that hinge and pivot. So, overall, what are my thoughts? Well, it's bland. That's all to see. I mean, if you want Morbius for your collection or just want some fodder for a custom one, then go ahead. But if you don't care for anything but T-pose memes, best to skip it. I'm Bento Fire, and I'm gonna go fight Santa. I just can't believe it. I just can't believe it. I just can't believe it. An entire year since he threatened to come down my chimney and beat me to death, and he just bails. You'd think Santa Claus would have a better time keeping his promises. Whoa! Vision! No! The Force Link Gauntlet! Wait, why am I sad about that?
Ho, ho, ho.
Santa! You possess my bootleg Tahoe!
Yes, Toe of Fire. I have toys to hand out this night. Did you really think I would have time to bother the likes of you? Better to have one of my bootleg creations do it for me.
Really? You make it personal like that, then you just decide, I'll send a toy to do it?
I am Santa Claus, the idol of millions everywhere. You're lucky I'm even wasting my time with some insignificant toy reviewer with a mask.
And yet, you completely missed the meaning of that mask.
What are you talking about?
Toe of Fire isn't just my username. It's what I am. Now, admittedly, I don't completely know how to use my powers yet, but I've been practicing one move in particular. And you know what? You've made me angry enough to use it. Yeah! Fireball! Yeah! Okay, plan B. Hyper Cannon. No sign of Santa in this thing. He must have ditched right before the blast hit him. Round one goes to us, Pigeon. Hello?
Look out! He's coming for you! There's another Enchantress, and he's not Ben!
Alternate? Alternate, come in, you're breaking up. Whatever he was talking about, do you think we can handle it? You're right. We've won this battle, we'll win the next.
This thing is terrible.
Are you kidding me? The guy's a loser and I couldn't even match up to him. Maybe he's right. Maybe I'm not worthy of my mask. after me. So I'm done.